Alright, y'all. How are you doing today? I know that today, for me, is a busy, busy, busy day. And whenever I get too busy, I'm reminded of that time in my life where I kept myself busy to avoid feeling. So, when my schedule starts filling up, the first thing I ask myself is, am I running from some feeling or avoiding a problem I don't want to face? I mean, right now the obvious answer is coronavirus, because really, who wants to deal with that? But I am dealing. And, all of that, and how it's impacting my life. But the project slash Zoom participations I'm saying yes to are incredibly meaningful. And in a weirdly introverted way, I don't think I would have had the same opportunities were we not in the midst of a pandemic and all of us forced to find creative ways to work and connect from home. So I think going forward into the new times, we're going to ask ourselves what aspect must change. And in thinking about how the theater has changed, I like to think it has created a lot more equity, or is changing the theater, that is. Not just confronting the racial disparity in performers on stage and also behind the scenes, but also the income disparity and accessibility. There are many who are unable to make it out to theater, or don't have the means to, or the resources to see Broadway shows. Another example is when Eddie and I went to see The Glass Menagerie in 2017 in New York City. At first, we didn't know that Madison Ferris had muscular dystrophy, and we just assumed that Sally Fields was carrying her on stage and setting up her wheelchair because it was part of the play. But no, she is an actress with muscular dystrophy, and what it was a joy to discover that they had cast her, because what it also did was it raised the discussion about theater and accessibility, and is it accessible for all people, physically and physically. Yeah. So, how are we casting? How are we making sure that everyone has a chance to view theater and engage in this process? The thing is, it's easy to dismiss the arts as frivolous and just say, oh, y'all are entertainers. I mean, yes, the outcome is that we do entertain, but for an artist, and for me personally, someone who started off first as a poet and a photographer and then transitioned into acting and filmmaking because it's so much more lucrative. At my core, I'm trying to make sense of the human experience, my human experience. And I think as artists, we're trying to record it in the media that we have available. The wonderful aspect about acting I love so much is stepping into the experience of someone else. I mean, yes, we're pulling from our knowledge of experience, but we're also trying to imagine how someone else would approach this situation. Yesterday, I got to participate in two very meaningful Zoom experiences and productions. The first was by Out of Hand Theater and Positive Impact in collaboration with the CDC, and the second was with Aurora Theater in East by Southeast. So the Out of Hand Theater experience was a 2-hour interactive theater engagement experience type thing that dealt with and ending the stigma surrounding HIV. And I can honestly say that I have been an advocate for ending the stigma before this experience, but I feel like an even stronger advocate now going forward. It's tools like these that help us realize how our advocacy can be more effective in ways that we are or are not speaking up. So Leah Sario and Justin Craig, I want to say. I'm going to get that so wrong. Look, I just spent 10 minutes trying to research this before I taped, so I'm so sorry if that's wrong, the wrong name, but I could not find it anywhere. Could research harder. So again, I'm sorry. Either way, the two led the session and the breakout sessions, and honestly, it was wonderful to hear a variety of viewpoints on HIV stigma and how it personally affects long-term survivors. And not only that, but hearing about how a lot of the resources available aren't available outside of English, at least in the United States, when it comes to finding ways to engage different communities to help stop the spread of HIV. I personally got to improv a scene with one of the actors about negotiating condom use, and it turns out also, not just in that improv scene, but in another improv scene, and from what the questions the moderators were proposing or posing to us, it turns out that fear is a common motivator in so many exchanges that often empathy and kindness are the best weapons in some situations for making sure that trust and communication can happen. Thank you, Lee and Justin, for leading this, and I can't wait for the program to expand and for more people to experience this. And the second activity, Intergalactic Trivia Night. So between rehearsals the previous night and then waiting backstage, I was reminded of the before times and how it felt in a real theater in the sense of camaraderie and participation amongst strangers to bring forth a story and provide a bit of entertainment. Not only that, but a serious kudos to Jeremiah Long, who wrote and directed the performance and casted such a wonderfully diverse cast that, in all honesty, it looked like the kind of diversity I want to see more. I want to make happen more in my projects because last night everyone brought such wonderful performances, diverse opinions and viewpoints, and yes, we were reading from characters, but still, even in the behind the scenes of just, not just a visual display of diversity, but I'm still processing on how beautifully diverse and intentional the cast that Jeremiah crafted. And I honestly cannot wait to work with him again. I cannot wait to work with everyone I've worked with in the past several days again. And some of these opportunities arose out of these difficult circumstances. There's your silver lining. Look, most of us don't remember the battles fought in the 60s or 70s or 80s or 90s or even in the early aughts. But the 60s especially, because I do feel that what we gained in those battles, the late 60s and early 70s, was an increase in representation and a paradigm shift in casting and optimism. Now, what immediately comes to mind is Star Trek, but also the television shows and movies that came out where it clearly represented a shift from programming of the past. I mean, if you think about the 80s and the superstars that came out of that, Whoopi Goldberg, Eddie Murphy, in the 90s, Will Smith, and those are the immediate representation that come to mind, but that's not an exhaustive list by no means, clearly. Optimism in an attempt to embrace diversity. And once the dust settles after this current battle that we are having, and engagement and shifting of viewpoints and paradigm shifts, we will have new opportunities. To grow, one must purge first. And boy, are we doing a lot of purging right now. And we are having more dialogue about increasing accessibility so that there is equity among all. So look, my thoughts are scattered this week, and it's also a very busy week. Now that I've recorded this, I've got to go get an oil change up in the burbs. Phone meeting for a show on Sunday, a meeting with Clorinda for our show on Friday, which is tomorrow. Then a fun coffee talk with acting teacher Ben. I cannot remember your last name, I'm so sorry. I meant to edit that. And then I need to look at my calendar because I'm almost positive there is something after that, which is why I brought back my planner, which is not in here anymore. But honestly, hopefully some of this made sense. So I'm going to go ahead and put this out there. And yes, I did just start last month, but I'm going to take a week off either at the end of July or the beginning of August. I'll keep you all updated when, and then we'll pick this back up. And hopefully after that week-long break, I will have a way, or I found a way to bring in guests and hopefully tape some interviews for you all. So that's one of the reasons for the break. Figuring out a way to decrease my voice and increase some other voices. As always, keep bearing the lightness of being. I love you all, and until next time. And hopefully you'll have a wonderful day. I know that today is going to be a great day for me.